Hi everyone, Rich Forsman here. Today I'm in the studio with Montana Hartman, who's running for Cumberland County Prothonotary.
Yes.
Montana, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I guess we can get the interview started with a simple question, one that I think everybody has on their lips. What the heck is a prothonotary?
Yes, it has been a year of answering that question. Whenever I was really deep diving into the role back last November, I found a Harry Truman quote where he asked that, and I knew immediately, like, that's going on the literature. And so it did, and everyone's liked it. It is the chief clerk of the Court of Common Pleas, so they are the civil record keeper for a county, so they keep track of and maintain the records of name changes, divorces, custody, protections from abuse, variety of different writs and liens. Record-keeping position, not a whole lot of policy or anything like that.
So not very glamorous then.
Well, depends who you ask.
I mean, so at the end of the day, though, you're kind of like a go-between between the Court of Common Pleas and
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
paperwork that gets done through them. Interesting.
Yes, I think the flyers say something like being a liaison for our community in the face of its courts.
It saves the judges from having to do more paperwork.
Yeah.
So I guess what prompted you to even run for this office?
The last 3 years have been very exhausting. So in 2022, I ended my job at the world's largest retail corporation. There I worked cashier, customer service, photo lab, layaway, variety of different positions. And whenever I walked out, I sort of knew that next was going to be running. So from 2022 on, I put together this plan to run for state representative, and it didn't work out. And I think the first thought I had then, was guilt, because we just raised all that money and it feels like it was for nothing. And then, general election happened, and then we all got the emails that are like, who will run? And I read the description, I was like, this fits a lot of what I've done over my life. Whenever I was at Cumberland Valley, I volunteered for the ESL program and helped tutor students from around the world who came here with their families, whether it be temporarily or to live, make it their new home. Right. And now if elected, it would be the Prothonotary's responsibility to host the naturalization ceremony, to give the certificate of citizenship to those who have completed the process. And that's a great honor, as well as being the person who would begin the process of a name change, for example, for many people in our community who might be under attack right now.
Sure.
A variety of reasons. People seeking divorce or custody, solace from a rough life.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, at least, and it's funny because, like I said, the role itself is kind of nebulous. Most people don't know what a prothonotary does, so just being willing to step up and do the work that's needed in order to, protection from abuse orders and things like that is definitely very noble, I guess you could say. So if you're elected, is there anything that's currently being done by the office that you feel needs to change, or?
I'm more focused on stepping into the role and learning it because I have a lot of free time. So, part of a generation that's experiencing a lot of searching for jobs and not a lot of hiring. So I view running for office as a year-long process of applying for a job, and if elected, it would that would be what I want to devote my time to, is helping the community.
Yep, and I guess that in that capacity, yeah, that is a good role for it. I mean, that's one of the reasons that got me involved in the first place was I'd come to a realization that living in an area for the last 2 decades, I had never really done anything to give back to the community other than show up and vote and pay my taxes. And, that kind of led me to where I'm at now, which isn't the direction that I was trying to head, but here I am. It's interesting, though. So you've been into politics for a few years now, and among your peers running for office, I would say you're probably one of the youngest. So I guess, is there anything that being a younger person brings to the office as far as insight goes?
That's a really good question. I think the free time. I think being able to, I'm young enough that I haven't, like my father, worked a job for 40 years straight. I'm looking for that job to really devote my time to.
That's all right. That's all right. No, so I mean, I get where you're coming from, though. I mean, me, like, public service was never something that was really taught or a priority in my family. So I never really gave it any consideration myself. But the one thing that I realized when I started doing volunteer work last year was it's very fulfilling. Like,
Yes.
even if you're not getting paid for it, like, just making a difference in the community and knowing that you helped somebody's day or life get a little bit better just by being a participant. Like, that was one of the things that really drove me and kind of kept me going. Like, even now, like you said, your dad worked 40 years. I put 26 years in IT, and after getting laid off, I was like, good, now I can actually focus on the thing that's actually been bringing me joy, these past couple of years, instead of, continuing to show up every day, punch a clock, and, log into my laptop and check emails all day. It's definitely more rewarding, I would say.
It is getting to focus on learning other people's stories.
Yeah.
Can be a good escape from the everyday
Absolutely.
of politics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the other thing that was really enjoyable about this is realizing that I do bring a unique perspective based on where I came from and my upbringing, but also like taking in other people's perspectives from throughout the community was really fun for me. Like, I didn't realize the joy of discovery, I guess, of it all. It's, just the individual conversations at the doors or even in bigger gatherings. Like, you learn so much about like your community just as a
Such
result.
a short amount of time, too.
And we all, and it's funny because like I mentioned in my first podcast, but one of the things that I really enjoyed about that experience too is there's a lot of commonality between us all, no matter which community you belong to, how you identify, anything like that. Like, we all basically want a lot of the same things here, in America. And, if we could actually work together, we might be able to achieve some of those things right now.
We can afford it.
So what about your family after all? Like, your dad worked for...
Yes. So my twin brother and I were born on November 30th. We were supposed to be born January 14th. So we were born in 2000, and that did not give them time to prepare finances. And my brother was born with multiple disabilities. He has hydrocephalus, cerebral palsy, epilepsy. He's immobile, nonverbal. But it was something I learned to care for from a young age.
Right.
So because of the financial aspect of simply having a child with disabilities, my father forced to work full-time, my mother forced to work full-time. So we were raised in Penn Township on our grandparents' farm, my maternal grandparents, for about 5 years until elementary school started, and my mom started working at Monroe Elementary School. She was a cafeteria worker, so it was an unconventional childhood. My mother worked at the school. I never rode a school bus. She drove us to school every day. A lot of things that were normal for other kids are very foreign to me. And I'm in a weird position of knowing both what it's like to, well, I guess all three, an only child, a twin, and someone with a sibling. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but it's...
And a bit of struggle, too.
Yes. But that's initially why I ran in 2024, because I knew that it was important to me to do whatever I can in my life to make sure that other families don't go through what we did or worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes time to get to that goal.
Yeah, it's funny. My grandmother was a lunch lady actually in my elementary school. It was nice being able to see her every day for lunch. Yeah, it is a unique thing.
Gossip on all the other kids.
Exactly.
Bring your child to work day meant going to school still.
Yep, exactly. That's funny. I guess where else do we want to go with this? I mean, I think we've already defined the role of the job and what you plan to bring to the table. You said you ran in 24?
Oh, well, technically I ran in 2021 for judge of elections, but that's literally the smallest office you can be elected to.
Yeah, so then what was the House seat that you ran for?
I ran for the 199th.
And that's currently held by?
Barb Lime.
Oh, that's Barb Lime's
Yes,
district.
so
Okay.
she was president of the school board and a member while I was at CV, and then my state representative, and then I was her judge of elections. So it's so funny, we've never met, but we've been in the same room and
Yeah, I know how that goes.
It's so weird. I've gotten asked before, from people my age, how it is meeting super important people, and it depends on which office how they deem it important.
Yeah.
But it's not difficult. Getting involved, it is so not difficult. I mean, I'm sure you've met.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting segue there, because I do. I kind of took a lot of it for granted. Like, I didn't realize when I was being put in some of the rooms that I was in last year how unique that was. And, you know, in hindsight, it's really interesting to me now because it's like, why did I even get invited? Like, I literally started volunteering last year, and next thing you know, they're like, hey, we like the cut of this rich guy's jib. Let's invite him to things. But it was fun, and like you said, politicians and public figures, elected officials, they're a lot more accessible than you might think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they're just hiding out in some ivory tower all day. And
some of them.
Some of them do, absolutely. I mean, you see a lot less of some of them than you do others. But if you're, you know, in the right spaces, you'll run into them. You'll at least cross paths from time to time. Like, I think, you know, like, that was one of the things that I like to throw out, you know, when I'm out there in public is, you know, I feel like as a representative, if you really want to represent your district, you need to be out there. You need to spend time in the community, because how better to check the temperature of whatever you're doing than actually spending time with the people that elected you, you know, or even the ones that didn't elect you in the case of the people who didn't vote. But
Absolutely. I find that showing up to events is the best way to do it. Like, you can do the door knocking, you can do the mailers, the text messages, but showing up to where people are already going to be and being able to have a conversation with them is, I find, more rewarding than...
It is to me. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I never really considered myself a people person, but I realized at some point, like, I do have like a natural ability to communicate. And in some ways, I make people feel more at ease just by being there. Like, I didn't realize that was a superpower of mine, but like, I was over at an event in Harrisburg a few months ago, and like one of the attendees after I left, they had texted me and they were like, you make Harrisburg brighter when you're here. And I'm like, aw. I was like, thanks. I was like, I was just showing up to have, you know, fun and talk to some of my friends, but you know, it's nice to know that just by being there.
Yeah.
Like, and now my son is actually back home now. You got to meet him briefly, right?
A couple times.
Yeah, at the barbecue or at the
Maine,
potluck.
right?
Yeah. And he's been taking part in some of this with me too, and he's really enjoyed it. Like, which I'm surprised I didn't see you last weekend. There was a trans rights rally in Harrisburg.
Oh my gosh.
And it was about just trans rights or human rights. But my son and I went, and you know, just to show our support. And I had to drag him away. He was having so much fun. Like, the event was over, and he's like, "Can we just stick around a little bit longer?"
I brought my mom to her first protest, and I want to make it clear, like, I'm a very political person. I have opinions, but with this job, just like judge of elections and retail, I enjoy being able to put that aside and work. Anyways.
Well, and I think that's important. You're not wrong. Like,
Right.
I think, especially at the local and county level, most of these jobs are not partisan jobs. They're
Right.
not. It's not left versus right. It's what's
Not
best
at
for
all.
the community. You know, and I think even on the other side of the aisle, most of the electeds that I've talked to are of the same opinion.
Good.
But at the same time, I too have strong opinions about a large, like, wide range of things. And I don't have a problem voicing them in public. And I think one of the things that was like feedback that I had gotten, because after I had started to gain like some kind of weird popularity, I was like, what is it that people like? And if they had like a word cloud for, like, you know, describe me, it would basically be, you're authentic. Like, your opinion doesn't change based on the room that you're in. You know, you believe in what you're saying, and it comes across as genuine. And I was like,
I think everybody running for office should aspire to that.
and that was my reply. Like, I didn't realize that was something that was in short supply, that people like that people would actually respond to. Like, I go out there and I talk about how I feel about things. Isn't that what everybody does? I guess not.
It's so weird when people who aren't as involved get to meet you. Like, I had this one time where a guy at this little vintage store that, it was called the Bunkhouse. They went out of business, but they were in Carlisle. It was a vintage store that had like different like punk concerts, metal shows.
Oh, cool.
And he saw my flyer and just started like geeking out. He was like so excited. He was like, "You're a person, and your opinions are on paper, and you're handing it to me." And I was like, thank you. This is not a huge role. But...
No, and I had the same experience. Actually, just yesterday, I had to drop my car off at the dealership to get it looked at. There was a recall. And it turns out I had to take it back because I guess they have to have it in the garage overnight. But the guy who was driving the shuttle, you know, he saw all the signs out in front of my house when he came to pick me up after I went to go get my car, and he's like, hey, well, there's no guessing which side of the aisle you're on. I'm like, no, there's not. I was like, actually, that one on the right, that's my sign. He's like, oh, you're Rich Forsman. He's like, I just voted for you. I was like, awesome.
my DoorDash instructions, like list the instructions, and then it says, please consider dropping your vote for Montana for Prothonotary on November 4th.
Yeah, no, and yeah, that's one of the little things that is kind of fun about it, like that little bit,
Yes.
like every once in a while someone recognizing you, like, hey, you seem familiar for some reason.
I'm distinct. People remember me.
Well, yeah, so the dress code, I was going to bring it up. So you have a distinct, I guess what we call it, uniform for your campaign. What
It's not
prompted
for the
that?
campaign. It's
It's just how you do it?
I was dressing like this since 2021, and I guess simply, at a very young age, I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm very attentive to detail.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a bad thing for the office I'm running for. I very much related to the 2021 adaptation of Cruella, the live action.
Oh.
I actually have half sleeve, but I'll keep that under the flannel. And it had a lot to do with recognizing somebody who was passionate about everything they did, but the people around them were just like, you're too much. And I grew up that way. I had like friends of my parents who wouldn't spend time with my parents because they didn't want to be around me. And it wasn't like I was doing something rude. It was just, I really liked what I liked. And I've always liked black and white. They're neutral colors. They're sheet music on a page. It's newspaper. It's a variety of different things. So summer of 21, I just started dressing like this, and I liked it. And I think more often than not, people don't like have a problem with it. Their problem is, what are other people going to think? But if
Right.
everyone's wondering what everyone else is going to think, it doesn't sound like anybody has strong
No,
feelings about it.
And it's funny though, because like once you start doing anything in public life, especially running for office, like once you have like a look, it becomes like your uniform. And I didn't know what I didn't know what I was doing last year. I was just kind of running around and bumping into things. But like when I started canvassing, I had a bunch of business casual clothes that I hadn't been wearing in years because I started working from home in 2020. And so I'm like, well, I'll go ahead and break some of this stuff out, dress up a little bit, so when I'm out there knocking on doors, I look somewhat professional. And I thought, being that you're representing a candidate in a campaign, I thought dressing up was just kind of like expected. And then I started meeting some of the other canvassers, and I was like, oh, I look like I'm the boss. Like people started like the first time I showed up to canvass, they were
dress up all the time. I never thought of that.
Yeah, but so like the first canvassing event that I went to, like the organizer assumed this was like my 10th or whatever. Like they started giving me instructions and having me like teach people. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like you're gonna have to have someone teach me this time at least. But from that point forward, I kept showing up wearing a similar like kind of semi-formal business casual type outfit. And when I showed up at an event wearing like a tank top, somebody was like, why are you in a tank top? And I was like, because that's my normal summer attire, generally speaking. If I'm not just lazing around at home or whatever and not going to a function, then yeah, that's tank tops and shorts. That's my entire wardrobe. Like I have a whole like drawer full of tank tops that I just don't wear anymore. And like I said, I didn't recognize at the time that I was kind of like setting, what do they call it? Like a brand. Like it becomes your brand
so much.
Yeah. But like now I understand how you get guys like Fetterman who like now it's the hoodie and the shorts everywhere he goes. It's like,
oh my God, Alma Adams. I don't know if you heard of her. She's a representative who wears these lovely hats all the time. With the way I dress, I have to have like a list of people to be like, yeah, well, you don't have a problem when this person does it. So, Alma Adams, she wears these lovely hats.
But that was one of the most entertaining things about all of this, since I was naive last year and I had no idea that I was just trying to be a good volunteer, and somewhere along the line people had already started picking me out as being something other than that. And I was like resistant at first, like no, that's not me. But then after a while you like I realized you don't have a choice. Like you don't get to decide. Like if other people have already made the decision for you, you can either accept it or just drop out entirely and disappear. Like that's your only real option. So I just kind of rolled with it.
Yeah.
Like I like saying, like, nobody sends you a Facebook notification to let you know you become a public figure. Like it's not like you get a little ping on your phone and you're like, congratulations, you've made it. People recognize you now.
Yeah, Google says I'm a politician.
Right. It's like the first time I had gotten on the news, that was something that I didn't know. If you have a Gmail account, Google will name search for you. And so I was at a event on like Saturday, and somebody had like sent me a text to say, "Hey, you were on ABC tonight." I was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, I remember talking to him. I didn't think anything I did was worthy of the air. And then I wake up on Monday morning and I get an email from Google saying, "Congratulations, your name showed up in 5 different media outlets this weekend." And I'm like, 5? I was like, I knew about 1. But it's like incremental. It's like baby steps. Like you kind of like, for me, I didn't accept it at first, and then after a while, I realized it doesn't matter if I accept it or not.
I love talking to people about what they don't tell you about people running for office. For example, everybody hates the text messages. They're like, Mitch McConnell kidnapped my kids. If you don't chip in $15, whatever. We get those, but not just for them. We get advertisements for advertisements. We get text messages asking us to buy their text messages.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've gotten that.
I have, yeah.
Even physical mail.
Yep. There's some interesting, like, as someone who was never actively involved before, like, it's like you find yourself on one mailing list, and next thing you know, you're on all the mailing lists. And now, like, every morning I get to wake up and sift through, like, at least 40 emails from random organizations that I may have attended an event for at one point or another down the line. And most of them want money. And I get it, but I always like to tell them, I'm unemployed. I need money.
My campaign manager last year and this year, in between, worked for Sarah Agerton, and she was like, just little word of advice. I forget what the amount was, but she was like, don't donate to anyone more than this amount, because then you're put on the list for calls when people go and ask for
they're like, he's a whale. Yep. No, and I'm sure that's probably what got me last year too, because like I was actually kind of flush with cash, so I did spread some around a little bit between the different Democratic committees the committees and some of the candidates. Yep.
I think I've only donated to 3. I'll keep that to myself. But I think I've only donated to 3 major campaigns. Yep. Local ones I've donated to.
Right. But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned, like, so the Mechanicsburg district. That's something that, did you know what happened there last week?
I do, yeah.
I still don't quite understand how in this day and age, like, hate like that can still exist in a community. Like, last night they actually did do a town hall, No Hate in Our State, I think it was called. And when I heard about it last week, so I guess for anybody who doesn't know, the women's chapter, I think it was, of the KKK was handing out leaflets at a Halloween event. And when I first heard it, I thought it was a joke, honestly, because really, in this day and age, like, it's the year of our Lord 2025. How is the KKK still?
I waited before saying anything to anyone, because I was like, oh, this is probably like just Facebook cop pasta.
Right, yeah.
It was not, and it was... So, like, I've lived in Cumberland County my entire life, 17 years in Silver Spring, right on the border of the Mechanicsburg borough, and then the last, I don't know math, to 24 in Middlesex. I went to that parade as a kid with my family, and it's just, disheartening isn't even the word for it, because it's disgusting. It's so many things, and it's just another example of, like, it's so hard to separate what we do from our lives. And for anybody, even the people who don't work in this, everything coming down from the top and the middle makes things local down here so exhausting.
Well, and from my money, I mean, it's just, to me, like, I don't understand how, like, it's not like it's lost on me that racism and bigotry still exist in America. I know it didn't go away. It's not like the Civil Rights Act solved racism. But at the same time, I didn't think anybody would be emboldened enough to actually start handing out flyers at a kids event in this day and age. Like, that's what caught me off guard. And so divorcing yourself from your office or whatever from items like that, sure, it's a free speech issue. But at the end of the day, I feel like the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness trumps, your First Amendment rights. If you were that actively hateful towards people that you probably never even spent any time around, I think that says more about you as a person than it does about the people that you're trying to, whatever, rally against. I don't know what you would call it.
Whenever I got, like, hate comments on anything, I usually, if they're not, like, too far, I'll just leave them out, because people should see what
Yeah.
other people have to say. I mean,
Exactly. Look what you did.
A lot of times, the First Amendment is social Darwinism.
Yeah, it is, and I like the way you put that because it is true, and yeah, I think rubbing somebody's nose in it and letting it air out and for everybody to see, I think that's better.
Yeah.
In fact, I kind of like that in the sense that like where that person stands now.
Yes.
Like, because it does. Like, there's a plenty of people who you don't know, and until like somewhere down the road they get a little too honest with you, and you're like, oh, we can't be friends anymore. One of our biggest like problems with understanding each other as a species, honestly, is just a lack of exposure. It's a lot easier to be racist if you don't know any people of color. It's a lot easier to be transphobic if you don't know any trans people. You can inoculate yourself against these things just by spending time with the people that you don't know anything about in the first place.
Absolutely how it was for me, and you're right. I didn't know what you meant at first, but it took a minute to click.
Yeah.
So my mom was apolitical until my 18th birthday. She registered.
She came out as a liberal?
So, raised on a farm, they don't, that's not on their mind, even though, 20 million or billion of beef from Argentina, whatever. It is political, but it wasn't political for them. So I didn't learn politics from her. My father, I would describe progressive independent, but still Gen X, who was registered independent until I ran. He, of course, wanted to support me in the primaries. So I didn't learn politics from them. I didn't learn it from grandparents. It was watching it unfold in a somewhat newly instantaneous age of technology and seeing exactly which people were standing up for families like mine and which ones were more worried about the Walton family and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think there is like that. And it's funny because a lot of that boils down to people like romanticizing a time in America that never really existed. There's always been strife, and there's always been, there was never a Leave It to Beaver era of America. The only reason the media portrayed it that way is because the media was basically self-censoring at the time. I look back on just growing up in the 70s, and life was not like it was talked about, in like the golden years. Well, not the golden years. What's the one with Fred Savage? Wonder Years. Wonder Years. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny looking back on that because I grew up through that entire era of the 1970s into the 80s and then the 90s, like you said, a Gen Xer. And I got to watch as the middle class eroded right in front of me. I got lucky in the late 90s and I found a solid middle class job that got me out of the neighborhood I grew up in and moved me out here to Pennsylvania. And by doing that, it gave me a whole new lease on life. My kids were young at the time, so it was a great opportunity for them. I got to give them an upbringing that I didn't really have, and we lived a life of relative comfort for the last 22 years here, and now. I worry about my kid's future. Is he going to be able to do that for himself and his family when he finally has one? That's what got me, really, kind of woke me up last year. Again, spending time in communities that weren't mine, realizing we have a lot of things in common. One of those big things is everything's out of control right now. You can't afford, to buy a house. Yeah. You can't afford to even pay rent and groceries these days.
People my age are living with up to 20 people because
right. And that's that's unacceptable. That's not the America I grew up in, and that's not the America that was promised with the middle class. We've watched this whole erosion. Anyways, Montana, thanks a lot for having a sit with me and talking about your views on issues, and thanks again to HMN Media Group for hosting us and giving us this lovely studio to shoot in. My name's Rich Forsman. Don't forget to vote for me on November 4th, and enjoy your weekend right before the election.